Hi there, this is David, and this video continues with my working on the bottom part of the railing. I've got to obviously figure out a way to mount that to the floor. I'm dealing with a floating floor in our kitchen area, so I can't bolt too tightly to that floating floor. I have to actually support the log a little bit above that. So this video will tell you a little bit about how I'm going to accomplish that major task. So hope you enjoy it. Again, if you have comments or thoughts and suggestions, love to hear them. Just put them in the comments below the video. Thanks. So I've got my helper here who is Yukon, and Yukon is a big help, but he usually goes up the stairs and goes off to bed. But today what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be drilling the holes. I've got them cut for the shanks for the little tenons. But underneath those tenons, what's going to be holding this log to the floor is going to be a bolt going through the tenon hole here. And what I have to do first is drill a countersink hole this size, basically to fit the size of the 1-inch wide washers that are going to go down into the hole. So that's going to get drilled down into there, and then that will allow the bolt to go down on the bottom of the hole and not block the tenon as the tenon drops down. And then what I'll do is I'll drill all the way through the log, and then I'll be mounting it basically to the floor, which is underneath the log, and I'm going to be using basically 7 washers, a stack of 7 washers, to give it a little bit of depth. That will cover, it looks a lot wider than it really is, but that will basically allow me to have the floor, which is in essence a floating floor, not super held down by the log. The log will actually be up a little bit just on top of this and supported by the washers that I'll be putting underneath the log. But more of that to come. So here I have the countersunk hole that I was just referring to. And what that is going to allow me to do is, again, the bolt is going to go down through that into the floor, but to make sure I have the clearance I need, basically I put that in and countersunk the hole until it was just barely enough for the head and the washer to fit down there. Then the tenon will fit into that bigger hole and basically not interfere with the bolt going down and holding the log to the floor. So I've done that now for the entire log. They're all drilled out, and the next step is going to be to drill a hole straight down into the floor as to where I'm going to place this, and then I'll also be drilling a same size countersunk hole into the floating floor for those washers, the 7 washers I mentioned before, to fit into the floor so that the log is not overly pressing down on that floating floor system. So I have the log back in the kitchen area, and what I have now done is I have drilled the holes, because again I drilled through the base of the tenon holes and have drilled through the floor and have 6 holes drilled the length of the run, and will now be countersinking those holes to fit the washers that will be underneath the log. Again, what I'm dealing with is I have a floating floor system that is 1/2 inch thick that I will need the washers to basically support. And 7 washers approximately is about the right size to basically fill the gap of the floor, the plywood floor, up to the base of the floating floor that the log will then rest on. So that's the next step, is to drill the countersinking holes here.